All right, so we're gonna go through just a side plank tutorial, some of the things that I like to look for in the side plank, maybe some of the reasons why I like to prescribe it. Arash here is gonna be our great example. This is our traditional side plank. So if he gets in position, this is what we're gonna say is a side plank, just as simple as that. If we go modified side plank, that's usually typically on the knees. Before we even get there though, what I wanna talk about is some things of why I like to perform a side plank. So we are yes, we're working on our frontal plane core musculature, both of our obliques, our core, everything, but I really like to use it to work on this bottom glute. So this hip abduction over here that's actually happening doesn't look like much, but go ahead and relax. To push himself up, Arash can use his core to try to lift himself up, or he could be thinking, I wanna drive my feet into the ground and think of like a lever. If I try to drive my feet into the ground, my hips are gonna come up on this side. So he should really be thinking of being active through his feet and pushing them into the ground, and that's gonna get his bottom glute to engage. It's super, super easy when people do side planks to not think of this, what's happening at their legs, and to be completely lax through the hips, and they're just using their core to lift, which again, isn't wrong if that's what the goal is. But again, when I like to do side planks, I wanna get the whole body involved. So that's one key thing that I look for. The second thing too is making sure people are good with their shoulders. So a lot of times you can do a side plank. It's very easy to get in a side plank position and really not be active with the shoulder. You're just letting the upper body, the chest is kind of going forward, you're letting it be in. If you wanna make this a full body exercise, really drive that elbow into the ground, be strong throughout the shoulder blade as you hold the rest of your plank. For many people, especially in rehab that are getting into these types of exercises, it's a lot of times it's the shoulder that gives out first. So what you can do is you can build them up. You can do side planks off a plinth, off a table. We have this low step here, but if you had something taller, there's actually a lot less weight on the person's shoulder that they have to stabilize through, and you still get a lot of the added benefits of the core and the hip, the glutes down at the bottom, but with a lot less domain at the shoulder. So we're gonna go first, we're gonna go on the knees. We'll say this is level 1. So again, if we're gonna go on the knees, you can say it's an on the knee side plank, or you can say it's a modified side plank. So we're starting on the knees, Arash is gonna drive up. This is gonna be our easiest, level 1 exercise. But a lot of times what people will do here, again, if they're not active through the hips, they'll actually be in kind of this sitting, I don't even know what to call it, this like seated position where the hip is all flexed. What you wanna do is tell them to drive their glutes, open up their hips forward. A lot of times they get in that position because they just choose an arm position. So go ahead and lower yourself and get closer. They choose a position, they choose a position that's too close, and then when they get up to make it feel good on their shoulder, they have to bend their hips. So you have to make sure that they're starting further enough away. So go ahead and get down, shoulder goes away, and then here you can tell them to drive their hips forward, drive their hips towards you, towards the camera, while they're driving their knee into the bottom. If your goal is to work the glutes, I actually find it's a lot easier to have the knee pushing down and then the foot. I just feel like there's a lot less room for people to cheat. So this is a good starting position for people to feel what it feels like for their knee to drive in and them to use their bottom glute to hold them up in addition to their core over here. Say you want to progress that, and we can go to the full plank position that Arash was in earlier. Two things, you can have people go full like this, which is them primarily using the bottom leg, but this top leg is also pushing into the bottom one too. Sometimes if that's too hard for people, you can have them go in that staggered position. So now, yes, they're using this bottom glute, but they also get to use their adductors on this top leg as well. Again, it's not right or not wrong, just another variation that you can prescribe if someone's having a difficult time. You can relax. If someone's having a difficult time maintaining that position for too long. Say you're doing your traditional, side plank, someone's holding it for a minute, 2 minutes, and you want to advance it. There are so many ways you could do it, but some of the easy ones without changing any of the vectors per se is we can go back into our traditional side plank position. Say I had a band around his thighs right here, he can perform traditional clams while he's doing it. So yes, we all think, okay, great, the clam's working this top hip because there's some resistance here, but what it's actually doing, what I like it more, is when he's pushing up, he's now no longer able to use this leg to help him. When people are in, you can relax. When people are in their side plank position, they're pushing through both of their knees, even though they're stacked on top of each other, to lift them up. When I take one of his legs away from him, he only has this leg that he can use to stabilize. So that's really why I like the clam position. Another one that I like, if you go modified here, is a hip abduction. So this is a great one I like too. So this top leg, I'm gonna have him point down. He's gonna drive forward a little bit, and then stay up, try to stay up. And this one is really tough. At this moment right here, he's getting max hip abduction here, max hip abduction ER here at the same time. This one is super, super hard, and he can go ahead and try to maintain that. And they've been working for a while. And that's a really good one that I like. You really don't even need a band for this. A lot of times people would like to prescribe a band. I think it's hard enough as is. That top position, that star position, when you're fully abducting on both sides, is when you ramp up everything in this bottom hip especially. Again, yes, we're hitting the top hip, but it's really the bottom hip that I really like to prescribe these for. You can add different types of reaches, so many other things you can do, but just in your traditional side plank, think of modifying some of those things to change the exercise a little bit and or target certain areas or groups of muscles that you want to hit without having to think of a totally different exercise.